All right, so let's talk about Strangers Prey at Night, which I think is a really badass name for this movie. I think that that is a really cool name. And it's Prey as in Pray at night. And I thought that that's just a really cool idea, and I like the marketing too. I like that you have the poster of all three of them with their weapons just in prayer mode. That's really cool, and I think that waiting 10 years for the next Strangers movie was a weird choice. I don't know why we waited 10 years, but I think in terms of the first Strangers movie, I think that this one is pretty close to being good as the first one. In I think that the first one is probably a better movie than this one. This one does have good things about it, especially the third act. The third act I think is really good. But I think the first one's better, just being a better movie because it's more interesting, and it's just more well made. I thought, even though it does suffer, both of these suffer the same issues of people making stupid ass decisions that are only in horror movies. They're gonna make these stupid ass decisions that purposefully move toward the plot or move towards somebody being killed. And I feel like a lot of people who don't like horror movies are gonna hate this movie. And I feel like critics were very mixed on this movie, of course, because of things like that. But for me, I thought that this was a pretty solid sequel, honestly. I think that the first one tried really hard to be a 70s type movie in terms of the slow burn build and not showing, like, it had violence in it, but it was pretty minimal. And this, especially with the soundtrack, is definitely an 80s movie, trying to be an 80s movie. And I think that's cool that both of these films are trying to be something a little different, even though they're the same, in terms of just people encounter the strangers while alone in a secluded area. And I like how this one, they're in the trailer park or like a campground where there's so many other places that these strangers can hide from, as opposed to the first one where they're just like, it's just a house and the woods, and they can just, there's not as much to hide in. If I feel like in that one, and this one I thought was clever, more clever with that idea. But really, overall, The Strangers Prey at Night, I think, is a pretty worthy sequel to the first one. I think that it doesn't dumb down the first movie, but it's more a little more silly, not like in a way where it ruins it, but silly in a way where it feels like it's tonally not completely the same. There's moments that make you think, "Oh, this is kind of silly the way that this thing is happening," but and I felt like the first one was more solid in terms of being straight up serious, and this has a couple of silly moments, but not like I said to ruin the movie. But overall, I think The Strangers Prey at Night is a really worthy sequel.